Woo!
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Anthony. I am a host of the show. As always, to my left, Cindy. What's up, Cindy?
What's up, amigos?
And if you are new to the show, this is the Sancha and Sancho podcast where we like to bring on really anybody that we can learn from entrepreneurs, mothers, fathers, firemen, really anything. Or if anything, we do solo episodes where we try to talk about anything that we've learned from experiences that we think that you can learn from. So that's basically the premise here. Today, it is going to be another solo episode with just us, and we wanted to get a little bit more particular with something that I feel like helped us a lot or that we've learned a lot about over the years. It's something that we've kind of gotten better at. And if anything, something that we would like to build some sort of structure so that, like, if anything, if we ever have some kids, hopefully they can follow some sort of plan or we can help them with this kind of plan and kind of really get them set up. So,
Exactly.
if anything, yeah, let's just jump right into this. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like or subscribe button or both and hit that little bell over there to make sure you get notifications every time we drop a new podcast like this one. So let's do it.
Let's get right to it.
Yeah. So this week we are going to talk about credit basics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you really want to start at the beginning, I feel like one of the first things that you can do that's can really, really set you apart from everything else. And sometimes it's too late, like if you're already older or whatnot. But if anything, if you're really young, and honestly, with some banks, it really doesn't even matter how old you are. You can be 2, you can be 16, you can be 10. But one of the best things I think that you can do is finding somebody that can set you up as an authorized user under one of their credit cards. And as long as they're making their payments on time and the bigger balance or limit that they have on their card, that actually will help you out so that when you can qualify for a credit card, it's actually showing that you have history already. So credit history and building history is probably one of the hardest things with credit. And if you can start early, that already gives you that really big leg ahead of what you're trying to do there. So
Definitely.
I actually almost forgot. Before we kind of get too far into this, we should probably explain why credit is very important.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I feel like that's something that not a lot of people talk about, and especially teach in school. So it's like sometimes when you kind of go out into the real world or are not educated about these type of things, or might have the people around you to kind of educate you on those things.
It can be kind of hard.
Yeah, you don't realize like how important that could actually be.
Yeah, and you need it for basically anything. So if you don't even know what credit is basically a numbering score system that banks use to rate you so that they
That's
can.
so weird to look at it that way.
Right, so they can rate you and kind of put you on a scale based on what they think you can afford, what you can afford as far as anything that you want to finance. If it's a car, if it's a house, a business, if it's a line of credit, a loan, basically anything like that. If you don't have like the liquid cash to actually buy something right then and there, sometimes you need to get a loan. And for most cases, everybody has to get a loan for something. So credit is really important. And I don't know, I feel like growing up, there was always kind of like this weird premise of like almost being afraid of it or like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, it's so dangerous. Like you don't want to mess it up. So don't even use it or don't even get a credit card. Like don't ever get a credit card because you're just going to mess up your credit. Like,
yeah, I feel like sometimes we get taught to be scared of it and to not actually use the material that is there for us to kind of help us get through life.
And I feel like one of the smartest things that you can do is just learn how to use your credit. If you can use your credit, honestly, it makes everything so much easier.
It definitely does.
So I guess let's just jump back to where we were. So yes, credit is really important. Don't be afraid of it. Credit cards aren't bad. Like this whole premise behind the spookiness of credit cards, it's not that bad. You can manage your bills. It's really just like another bill. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll get into that. It's not really a bill. So
Right.
the first thing, maybe sometimes it's kind of too late, but one of the first things you can do, and I feel like the best thing that you can do, and the only reason I know about this because I actually had a buddy growing up where his parents set him up like this,
Mm.
and I remember him being in high school and having cards with like crazy limits that he was able to use,
Mm.
and I just didn't understand it because I was just like, "What do you mean? Like it doesn't make sense. Like
Right.
we're not even 18 yet."
Yeah.
So that's I think one of the best things that you can do because it's already creating some like sort of history for you is just find somebody that can make you an authorized user under their account or under one of their line of credit, one of their lines of credit. That was kind of a tongue twister. Tongue twister. Can't talk right now. And that kind of already helps you establish some sort of credit. Okay. So if that is not the case, say you can't find anybody or a friend or whatever family member, and that's just not really an option for you, or maybe it's too late for you, whatever the case is, the next best thing that you can do is literally just shopping for a good bank.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the first thing you can do. And sometimes some of these bigger banks like Wells Fargo, just to kind of name drop one in particular, I don't really want to get too deep into that, but some of the
Mm-hmm.
bigger banks aren't always the best banks for you.
Right.
They just don't always have some of the best perks.
Mm-hmm.
So when I mean perks, I mean by like what the bank is willing to do for you. Like sometimes they'll charge you monthly fees.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll charge you annual fees.
Right.
Sometimes there's overdraft fees. Sometimes there's like transfer limits.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's
Or even
ATM limits. Like
right. Or even if you go out of the country, they still charge
all
you
of
for
that.
a balance.
Everything. There's so many different things. Some banks have just like better logistics for online banking. You know, if you don't even want to go to the bank, like there's so many different things, and you can find the bank that works for you. That's perfect. There's tons of resources for that, but just that's probably the best thing you can do is just shop for a bank that's gonna work best for you. Like for us in particular, we use multiple banks actually, so
Mm-hmm.
we should probably be a little bit better about this and kind of narrow it down to one particular bank. But we have one big bank or a couple big banks, and then we actually use one online bank.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird using the online bank. It's definitely a
Right.
lot different because I feel like
Yeah, I feel like it kind of just makes you think like you have more questions to it
yeah.
than what it really is.
And
And it,
honestly, I think it's just because it's like the old school, like just showing up to the
right.
actual concrete building
Mm-hmm.
of a bank
And
and
actually
seeing
talking to
somebody.
somebody,
Yeah.
right, exactly. But
So
sometimes, just like what you're saying, sometimes it may not be the best option. And,
sometimes you
you
don't
know,
really need it.
yeah. And so sometimes like looking into different banks and just kind of researching as far as like what could be a great fit for what you're looking for exactly.
Right.
And even like, let's say, that you are brand new into the whole like credit card whole journey, just in general. There's a lot of different ways to kind of go about that because, for an example, like let's say, your parents or you're wanting to set up your kids like in the right path and getting them into like an authorized user.
Mhm.
In most cases, that's when you already established credit and stuff like that. So you're able to kind of do those things. And
Yep.
maybe you're looking for something more in particular with, you know, maybe something that kind of offers like cash back, some points,
Mhm.
rewards, things like that. Um,
Yeah, if you already have some history like established, then your options are going to be way better. I mean,
mhm.
you start to dabble into higher limits, and with higher limits, then banks are actually going to start giving you bigger offers like travel cards. Those are really cool. The cashback cards are very cool. Some are very particular like to a store, like a Home Depot card. You just get better points if you use it at Home Depot, for example. But there's tons of cards. Like you have so many options. There's cards for everything. Literally almost every bank, every store, no matter what it is. So
Mhm.
definitely shop around, especially if you have some options. But if you don't really have a lot of options,
Mhm.
um,
And you're just starting in the
and you're just
journey.
starting off,
Mhm.
one of the best ways is a secured credit card. And basically what that means, secured, quote unquote, is kind of like
This is like you starting from absolutely scratch. Like you yourself.
basically you
Um,
have no credit history, you have no credit at all, and the bank is like, "No, you have no credit. We're not even going to give you a regular credit card. You're not even approved for it." Um, so basically, you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, that means that you have to get a secured credit card. What that means is it's kind of like a loaded or a preloaded gift card
I like that.
in a credit card form.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you have to use your own money. So, for example, what I did was I took $300 and I took it to the bank that I was at the time. And I said, hey, I just want to get a secured credit card. And they take that $300 of your own money
And put it on a card.
and they basically load it onto that card. And that becomes your credit limit if you become, like, if you're approved, right? Obviously. And that becomes your credit limit. So then you just use that like a credit card, but then you have to keep your balance low. You have to make your payments on time, and you do that for a long time. And for me in particular, and I don't know why, but for me in particular, I still actually have that same secured credit card.
Yeah.
My balance on that card is still $300.
Which I think you should probably check in on that. But for an example, in my case, I did the exact same thing, but I actually did like a higher balance. So I actually did like about like $500 to start with.
Yeah.
And then they actually saw that I was doing really good on the credit card, like knowing how to manage it,
Yep.
leaving like a percentage on there, which we'll go a little bit more into detail about, but leaving a percentage behind or an amount behind, and then of course making your payments on time and stuff like that. And if they kind of see that history
And that you're
what they
managing it very
do-
well. Yeah.
yeah, what they actually do is they actually give you your money back, which is awesome. When I got that nice little surprise, I was like, all right.
I know. It always is nice to get that any kind of money back from
I
your
know.
bank.
Yes. And so they actually give you that money back that you put down into that credit card, and they give you their money.
So then it turns into like an actual credit card. So then you can go from there. If you use that well, then they'll keep upping that limit and up it. So
So that's literally like our experience from just starting from scratch, and just trying to get a credit card on our own.
right. And that's definitely just getting started. And that's really important, almost just like anything else, is just, if you haven't already, just like go and get it started, because credit is, and this is really important. So if anything, this is something that you should also get out of it. But credit is a very long-term thing. It's not, you don't just build credit over a year.
Right.
We've been working on our credit for 10 years now, and there's people that have been working on their credit for 40 years, 50 years, and they have crazy good credit, but it's because they have crazy history. Credit is a lot of history. So over time, what it looks like when you're managing any sort of finances, that's what they look like.
And
or
for
that's what they look at.
for an example, sometimes you'll drive past by like a dealership, which we actually did an episode on that. So make sure you tune into that. But let's say you're just driving past by like a dealership or something like that, and you see 0% interest rate if you buy a car. That is for people that pretty much have like really great credit and that has established that history.
They're advertising their best financing offer.
Right.
And their best financing offer only goes to those with the best credit. So credit is very important. If you have bad credit, you usually get a higher interest rate, meaning your payment's going to be bigger and you're going to pay more over time. If you have better credit, normally that means you get a lower interest rate on the loan, meaning you have lower payments and you pay less over time, which is actually true to what the actual value is of whatever it is that you're buying. So it just helps you in the long run. It actually helps you save money. If you manage your money well, you'll actually spend less money in the long run and save more, and you'll be able to get more. So it's kind of a weird thing. But back to the secured credit cards, if we were to do a different, or if I were to do a different, something that I would do different this round was I would put a bigger balance onto my secured creded card. The biggest balance that I have. If I've got $1,000 or $2,000, I'm going to put as much money onto that secured credit card as I can. So that way it shows to the bank that I'm using bigger numbers and I'm managing, a larger line of credit, quote unquote, even though it's my money at the time. That way it shows, that I'm managing my credit well, right? And the one way that you can do that is by keeping a balance on your line. So I know that sounds kind of weird, and sometimes you can hear people like, pay your credit card balances all the way off every month. Like, I mean, yeah, but that doesn't show that you're managing anything. It doesn't show the banks that you're actually utilizing their credit. So you actually want to leave a little bit of a balance on your credit card. So we like to use the 30% rule, which basically means you take whatever your limit is, you take 30% of that, and that's actually your credit card.
Mm-hmm. And
You
it could
don't
be,
spend
and it could kind of vary too. It could be like 10 to about like 30%.
right.
So it just kind of depends, like as far as like what your balance is and
Right. And what I mean by that is you just don't ever spend more than 30%.
right.
That's the 30% rule. Don't ever spend more than 30% of what your limit is. And that's going to show to the bank that you're not just going buck wild with
Mm-hmm.
whatever your limit is. You got a $1,000 limit and you go and you buy a $900 TV. Like
Yeah,
that's bad.
yeah, that is not
That's not good. That's not managing your money very well. So the 30% rule, if you have a $1,000 limit, is you don't go and spend more than $300, and then you make at least a minimum payment every month, but then keep your balance below 30%. If you
right.
can do that, that's gold right there.
And
That's
then
what banks want to see.
kind of circling back around where it's like, it's like, okay, well then do I pay off my entire credit, like the balance that you owe? And that's where it would be like, no, because you want to leave at least like
A little bit of a balance.
10% maybe balance behind something like that, because
Again, it just shows to the bank that you're actually managing their line of credit, but utilizing it. They want you to use it because that's how the banks make money.
mhm.
So the more you use it and the more that you can manage it and keep your balances low, the better it's showing to the banks that you're able to manage that line. So then
And not only that though, that will boost your credit,
yeah.
because that actually goes off of yourself as well too. Like, and that's another thing too, like, sometimes like a lot of people like might ask, or that was at least one of my things that I was like always wondering about, is like, how can I always like periodically check my credit score? Like, how do I even know what my credit score is and stuff like that? And
That's a great question. One of the best ways that you can do this, especially in today's day of age, everybody's got a smartphone. Everybody's got access to a computer. No excuses. Libraries are free. Literally. Credit Karma. Everybody's seen the commercials. Everybody's heard their ads. We're not sponsored by Credit Karma at all. No way, shape, or form. But hey, if you're listening, we would love to be a sponsor. We would love you to be a sponsor. Anyways, Credit Karma is the best way. It's free. You just download it onto your phone, and it syncs up with your social security number, basically.
and sometimes like you start thinking like, what? No, it's asking for my social.
But millions of people use this. I've been using it for years, and it doesn't charge you. It doesn't affect your credit at all, and it's not always 100% spot on accurate, because
Right.
it like takes a month or so for it to update sometimes, or sometimes a weeks, or whatever it is. It's not going to be like real time accurate always. But it's a great way just to monitor everything, because
Yeah, and it's going to be one of the closest things to kind of at least have an idea
a good ballpark, yeah.
exactly as far as like where you might be sitting at.
But it shows you everything. It shows you all of your lines of credit. It shows you
Yes.
how old they are. It shows you how many payments you've made or missed. It shows how many hard inquiries there's been on your credit.
And
Shows-
most importantly as well too, the longevity of
Yep.
like your credit card history or just your credit history. Because
Yep.
sometimes like that will show auto loans, that can show mortgage loans, that
Yep.
can show just
And
anything
sometimes-
at all that has to do with credit.
Sometimes what's cool about Credit Karma too is sometimes there's stuff on there that's wrong. I actually, for me in particular, I have the same name as my dad. So in the past, I've actually had a thing where it mixed it up, where they had something on my credit that was supposed to be on his.
Oh wow.
So we had to mess with that. But what's cool is I actually disputed it on Credit Karma, and it started the whole process, made some phone calls, and got it all figured out.
And
But
see, that's what's so crazy. It's like if you would have not known,
I would have never known.
yeah, you would have never known,
If
and
I
you
would-
would have had something like that to your
Exactly.
name.
Exactly.
And you're like, what? I don't even know what this is,
Yep.
So
So-
yeah, it is always very important to kind of like know what is, tied into your name, and just kind of have more control of your, I don't know what you would call that. What would you call it?
Your finances.
Yeah, your finances and yourself.
That's very important. It's very, very important.
Mhm.
So Credit Karma, yeah, that's probably one of the best ways to do that. So
And what's nice about that as well too, is that's actually how I looked for new credit cards, because after
Yep.
you kind of now start creating that or building that history, you go out and you get your secured credit card, or you were under an authorized user and you have your credit already established. If you did one of those two things, you still want to actually go out and
Get
apply for
more.
more credit cards,
Get
because
more lines of credit.
yeah, you don't want to just stay with one credit card and just stay with that. You want to actually open new lines.
Not all at the same time.
Right. Not all at the
Yeah.
same time.
Wait, like establish some credit.
Yeah. And definitely use like your first round to really know how to use it, practice, and
Make sure you're making all your monthly payments on time. That's very important.
And for us, for an example with that, it's simple as just connecting your bank to it.
Yep.
And just doing automatic monthly payments.
Yep.
So
normally
it's
the automatic monthly payments are pretty low. It's like $20, $25.
Mm-hmm.
So
it doesn't matter. Like, even if you just won't be late. It's always nice to have.
What's cool way to think about it too is when you're making a payment under your credit card, it's not really like you're losing that money, right? So like you're like, oh fuck, man, I only have $50 in my damn
name.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
can't spend $50 on my credit card.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm using that accent. I can't spend $50 to pay my credit card this month because it's all I have until my next paycheck, right? Well, no. Just take that $50 that you have, make that payment, onto your credit card.
And use your credit card.
And then you still have your $50. I mean, don't spend the whole $50. That's where it puts you in that weird trap.
Yes.
Obviously, that's overspending.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make a payment towards your credit card, the money is still there. You can use it. It doesn't disappear like other bills. Like if
Are
you're
you
making
still using the accent or not?
No, sorry. I think that was a different accent. I don't know what's going on with me right now. I think it's late.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry. But basically, if you're making the payment, the money is still there. You still have access to it. Obviously, it's not a great idea to spend all of it again because you're trying to make a payment, but maybe you're keeping your balances perfect at this spot, so you're just trying to keep it,
right,
level there. That's fine, but that's a different kind of situation. But that means that you're managing your credit very well. So that means you're doing very, very good. So yes, Credit Karma is a really good way to manage everything, dispute things. That shows Experian and TransUnion. You can shop for credit cards. You can shop for auto loans, which is actually another thing that I wanted to talk about, especially when it comes to expanding your credit, is if you haven't already, you already have a credit card. That's the first thing that you should do, a secured credit card if we're being particular. After that, go and get an auto loan. I mean, obviously, if you can afford it, don't just go out and do that. That'd be kind of dumb.
And then everything always just goes down to what you can really afford.
Exactly.
Like, you're not going to go out there and try to qualify for a $5,000, credit card. Or, for an example, you're going to qualify for a $40,000 vehicle.
Yeah, if you're 18 years old and you have absolutely no credit history at all, you're not going to go into that Dodge dealership and buy that Hellcat. Like, it's just not
as much as you really want.
It's not going to happen.
For sure.
Unless you have a crazy cosigner or a crazy amount of money down, that's not realistic. It's just not in your credit range. So that's why it's important to start early. But that can be you for sure, especially if you're making good money and the bank thinks that you can afford it. That's also really important.
Yeah.
But go and get an auto loan. All that's doing is it's adding other lines of credit onto your credit history and basically just putting more numbers under your name. Debt is actually really good if you can figure out how to manage it. I know that seems very taboo.
But it is.
But it's true.
And that's the thing, though. It's like there's this like rabbit hole type of thing where just people say that credit is horrible to use, stay away from it, and
but if
it just gets you into trouble.
Yeah, if you use it right,
yes, if you use it right, you could actually use those opportunities to either make you more money back or to leverage to get you the things that you need to get.
I mean, look at it this way, and you're going to hear it sometimes, especially it's in a lot of books that we read, but a lot of people talk about not using your money and using somebody else's money. Well, if you have good credit, you can leverage your credit, and that's somebody else's money. That's bank's money.
Mm-hmm. I know, and that sometimes transitioning that perspective, sometimes you're like, well, no, that's actually my money. No, it is somebody else's money, and it's kind of depending like how you want to use that.
For sure.
And sometimes that's where it can get you into trouble, but then it can get you into success or
Yep.
whatever it may be.
So just follow the basics,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now you got an auto loan. So really all you got to do now is just keep your balances low. Make every single one of your payments on time. Don't be late. Don't be late.
That's like our homework that we got taught in school.
Don't be late. It's so much harder to build your credit once you've fucked it up than it is to keep it going very well.
Right.
So don't mess it up. Like just make your payments on time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all it is. So
Don't mess it up, and then also just don't overspend because that can get you into trouble
keep
too.
your
You can
balances
still
low.
be making your monthly payments.
Yep.
Everything still looks good, but then you're getting screwed with those interest rates that they get you for the
That's
very
the catch
first
with
time.
credit cards, yeah. So the interest rate is usually really high on credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want a high balance. So keep your balances low. Remember 30% rule. Keep your balances low. Make your payments on time. Stay very, very disciplined. Be very, very patient. And do your research.
Mm-hmm. Yes, doing your research and then just kind of finding out what suits you in that moment that you're trying to look for a credit card or a line of credits or whatever it may be. Exactly. Yep. But yeah, I think that's overall like
I think those are some good basics.
Yeah, I feel like that's an overall like good general idea as far as like, you know, how to get started with like credit.
So what are you waiting for? You haven't already? Go get started because credit is really important. Everybody needs it. Some point in your life, you're going to want to go finance a house or a car and you're going to need some credit. So if you haven't already, go get that stuff started. If you liked any of the stuff in this video, let us know. Put a comment down below. We'd love to read them. We're definitely message you back or comment back or send us a message if you have any questions about anything in particular. Mm-hmm. I'll even tell you the banks that I use. If you want to know, reach out to me. I don't mind. That's cool. I think it's great. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't already, just like we said before, if you like this video, hit that like button. I hope that you guys are already subscribed.
If you're not,
please hit that subscribe button.
Subscribe, please.
And if anything, hit that little bell over there so that you get notifications every time that we drop a new podcast like this one. Stay tuned because I think we're going to get a little bit more detailed about this and get a little bit more specific about credit. So I hope you guys like this episode. We're going to keep doing ones like this. Again, these are all the things that we think would have helped us out tremendously if we were hearing this when we were younger. So this isn't just for a younger audience. I hope this helps everybody else. And again, we're not experts. This isn't advice. I mean, it kind of is, but it's more or less, this is just the things that we've learned through our experiences. And honestly, we're still learning. This credit thing is a long-term journey. I hope everybody else there, is also working on it. Let's all find some success in this week and whatever it is that you are doing. So this is the Sancha and Sancho podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We love you, amigos.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, and comment, subscribe.
And one of the best ways to support this podcast is give some love to our sponsors.
You already know.
They definitely make this happen for us. So, as always, Submission Nutrition. We love that, man. Go give them some love.